If you think the English and the French had a complicated relationship, you have not seen anything until you have explored the blood-soaked history of Burma and Siam. Imagine your next door neighbour breaking into your house 16 times over a century. Not to borrow sugar, mind you, but to burn your house down and kidnap your family. What if I told you that one of history's greatest conquerors remains virtually unknown in the West, despite commanding armies larger than those of Genghis Khan? Would you believe that the fate of Southeast Asia hung on the outcome of a duel between two war elephants with two kings mounted atop of them? Besides, here is the kicker. This is not some obscure footnote in history books. This brutal tug-of-war shaped the modern nations we now call Myanmar and Thailand. Right then, gather round, because today we are venturing into the tropical jungles of a 16th century Southeast Asia, where two mighty kingdoms locked horns in what becomes one of history's most devastating yet criminally overlooked rivalries. In addition, unlike your typical history lecture, I promise not to bore you to tears. Well, at least I will try not to. You see, before the Europeans stuck their noses into Southeast Asian affairs, two formidable powers dominated the region. The Kingdom of Burma, now Myanmar, and the Kingdom of Ayutthaya, which later became Siam and then Thailand. Also, bloody hell, did they hate each other's guts. The stage for this centuries-long drama was set after both Burma and Siam emerged from the shadow of a declining Khmer and Mongol empires. By the early 16th century, these ambitious kingdoms were eyeing each other like two boxers sizing each other up before a heavyweight championship. Now, let us be clear, this was not some gentlemanly disagreement settled over tea. When these two went at it, they went all in. We are talking massive armies, war elephants, and the kind of devastation that makes Game of Thrones look like a playground squabble. Now, before I continue, let me apologise in advance if I mispronounce any of the Burmese, Siamese or Thai names, as that is on me, my accent, and not the names. The opening act of this brutal drama began in 1547 when King Tabensweti of Burma, a young, ambitious ruler with a taste for conquest and rice wine, not necessarily in that order, decided that his kingdom was not quite large enough for his liking. After gobbling up various smaller states, he turned his hungry eyes towards Ayutthaya. I should mention that Tabensweti had a rather impressive right-hand man named Bayonion. Remember that name, it will come up again. Together, they were like the Batman and Robin of medieval conquest, and Batman had a fondness for beheading his enemies, and Robin commanded armies of elephants. Then in 1547, Tabensweti marched into the Siamese territory, expecting a quick victory. Instead, he found himself bogged down outside the capital, his armies ravaged by disease, and Siamese defenders who were not particularly keen on Burmese occupation. After a 5-month siege that went absolutely nowhere, Tabensweti retreated with his tail between his legs. However, that was just the appetizer in this feast of conflict. The main course was served by our friend Bayonion, who, after Tabensweti was assassinated in 1550, turns out excessive drinking and annoying your nobles is a risky combination, who knew, seized Burmese throne and built what historians call the largest empire in Southeast Asian history. Bayonion was the sort of bloke who would wake up, conquer a kingdom before breakfast, and wonder what to do with the rest of his day. However, by 1557 he had consolidated his power in Burma, and once again began casting his gaze southward. His ambition was not just territorial. He saw himself as a Buddhist monarch with divine mandate to spread his influence. Presumably, the Buddha's teachings on non-violence were conveniently overlooked. In 1564, Baekhyun launched the assault that would become legendary. With an army of about 100,000 men and 700 war elephants. Yes, 700 bloody elephants. Imagine the dung-shoveling detail on that expedition. He marched on Ayutthaya. Now, the Siamese were not exactly pushovers. Their king, Maha Chakrapat, met Baekhyun's force with his own impressive army, including a corps of war elephants. The clash culminated in what must have been one of history's most spectacular sights. The two kings, mounted on elephants, charging directly at each other in a personal combat. In what sounds like a scene from a fantastical film, but actually happened. Baekhyun's elephant gored King Maha Chakrapat's mount, sending the Siamese king tumbling. However, before he could be captured, the Queen, yes, the Queen, charged in on her own elephant to rescue her husband. Unfortunately, she was killed in the fracas, becoming a national heroine in Siamese history. Actually, wait a minute. I need to pause here because this is too extraordinary. Queen Suryayotai donned Mao military attire and rode into battle on an elephant with her daughter beside her. When she saw her husband in danger, she manoeuvred her elephant between the king and Baekhyun. The Burmese general, not recognizing her as a woman, cut her down with his spear. Now, that is what I call a royal intervention. Certainly puts those waving royals on balconies to shame, does it not? Right, back to the tale. Ayutthaya fell to Baekhyun, and the Burmese king installed Maha Chakrapat's son, Mahindratrat, as a puppet ruler. However, as the saying goes, give a man control of a kingdom and he will start getting ideas above his station. Within a year, the Siamese were in revolt, and exasperated Baekhyun returned in 1568 with an even larger army and captured Ayutthaya again, and this time annexed it directly into his empire. The city was plundered, its treasures carted back to Burma, and thousands of its residents, including almost the entire royal family, nobles, artisans and dancers, forcibly relocated to Burma. Now, imagine being a Siamese artisan. One day you are peacefully making your pottery or whatever, and the next you are being marched hundreds of miles to live in Burma because some foreign king fancied your artisanship. Talk about a rough commute. Nevertheless, here is where it gets interesting. Despite the Burmese conquest being nearly total, the Siamese bounced back with remarkable resilience. In 1569, a noble named Pariah Tamarat declared himself King Narayan and began the process of restoring Siamese independence. Narayan is the stuff of legends in Thailand. Raised as a hostage in the Burmese court, he knew his enemy intimately, their tactics, their strengths, their weaknesses. It is like if Luke Skywalker had grown up with Darth Vader, learning all the Empire's secrets before turning against them. By 1584, he had successfully thrown off the Burmese yoke. The crowning moment of Narayan's career, and I mean this literally, came in 1593 during the Battle of Nong Sarai. In an echo of the earlier elephant duel, Narayan challenged the Burmese Crown Prince Milai Swa to single combat. Atop war elephants, the two royals clashed, with Narasan cleaving the prince in two with his sword. And would have paid good money to see that, from a safe distance, mind you. This defeat was a crushing blow to Burmese prestige and marked the beginning of Ayutthaya's resurgence. For the next 2 centuries, Burma and Siam would continue their dance of invasion and counter-invasion, with the borders shifting back and forth like an indecisive shopper in a supermarket aisle. Now, you might be wondering, so what? Why should I care about 2 kingdoms knocking 7 bells out of each other 5 centuries ago? Well, the ramifications were enormous and still echo today. First, these conflicts shaped the national identities of both Burma and Thailand. The Burmese remember their empire under Bayoning with pride, while Thais celebrate Narasong as a national hero who liberated them from foreign oppression. Historical memory is a powerful force. Just ask the English and the Scots about Brandenburg sometime. Second, the wars caused massive population movements, which forced relocations of artisans and nobility, creating cultural cross-pollination throughout the region. The architecture, art and cuisine of both nations bear witness to this intermingling. Third, and most significantly, the constant warfare eventually weakened both kingdoms, making them vulnerable to European colonial ambitions. Burma would fall to the British in the 19th century, while Siam, largely thanks to its skilled diplomatic manoeuvrings, would remain the only Southeast Asian nation to escape colonization. Think of it as the geopolitical equivalent of 2 brothers fighting so viciously that they did not notice the neighbourhood bully approaching with malicious intent. The legacy of these conflicts continues to influence Southeast Asian geopolitics. Border disputes between Myanmar and Thailand persist to this day, and cultural attitudes formed during centuries of warfare do not disappear overnight. So next time you're enjoying a Thai green curry or admiring Burmese pagodas, spare a thought for the blood-soaked history that shaped these cultures. In addition, perhaps raise a glass to Queen Suruyothai, who frankly deserves her own Hollywood blockbuster. Move over, Braveheart. There is a new historical epic in town. Besides, if there is one lesson to take from all of this, it is that empires rise and fall. Borders shift like sand, but the stories of human courage, ambition and folly endure. That, and never underestimate someone charging at you on a war elephant. If you have enjoyed this romp through Southeast Asian history, do hit the like button, subscribe, and do leave a comment. On top of that, for God's sake, be nicer to your neighbours than the Burmese and Siamese were to each other. A cup of sugar is much cheaper than raising an army of elephants. Stay safe and goodbye.